I'm reading Chris Davies's post-match interview. In it, he says, "All I want is consistency across the board to give us a chance." All I want, Chris, is a bloody shot on target. My name is Simon Brew, and this is the latest Thoughts on the Blues. Coventry City versus Birmingham City. Taking place Saturday the 27th of September 2025. The worst Birmingham City performance I've seen probably since Wayne Rooney was in the dugout. Coventry, won it by 3-0. Thomas Asante, Asai Samuel own goal, Torp, to Coventry fans who might have stumbled on this to have a bit of a gloat watch, let me get this done up front. Coventry deserved a 3-0 win. Coventry were the better team. Now, Coventry fans, piss off, because we're going to talk about the Blues. This was after... Oh, God, where do you start? Where do you start? After the optimism of... It wasn't even a smash and grab at home to Swansea. It was a deserved, fought-for 1-0 win that happened to have a 94th minute winner. I confess, I went into the Coventry game with at least some degree of optimism. Now, our record against teams from parts of the Midlands, if you're fairly generous with the boundaries, this season has been appalling. Port Vale, bit Stokey, but no, lost to them. Leicester, lost to them. Stoke, lost to them. Coventry City, lost to them. In common with all of those, I think we got one shot on target in those 4 games. One of the refreshing things about last week's home win against Swansea was Chris Davies had a plan B. He changed it. And I would suggest for the first 15-20 minutes or so of the game away at Coventry, he changed it again. That there was, more long balls for a start. We've not done that for a little while. The long balls were coming faster. Lewis Kumas running down the left looked like he was getting a bit of purchase, although I'd like to see Lewis Kumas with a bit more strength to hold off the defender. But still, he was fighting his way through. We were digging in. We were making it difficult for Coventry. Then Coventry get a long throw. The start of the season, one of the positions that I just didn't even think was a worry were the centre-backs. We got Christoph Clara. After the Ipswich game, Phil Neumann, I just thought, Clara and Neumann, that is the centre-back partnership to get us through the season. Then Neumann has a wobble, really. A couple of games where he's not at that standard. Moves Clara to the other side of defence, and it just doesn't work as well. Cashim, I think had had one good game, one slightly shaky game. In comes Jack Robinson last week. Yeah, all right. And a surprising team selection really paid off. My residual thought was Ben Davies. He was out there. He's a very good partner for Christoph Clara. Getting rid of Christian Bielik, all right. But still, I looked at the centre-backs we had, didn't have a worry. There were other bits of the team, and you're just like, well, there might be an issue there. Centre-backs, no. Now, Clara aside, centre-backs are a bit of a worry, aren't they? In comes a long throw, not particularly well defended. Their centre-back gets a shot. Allsop saves. Bradley Thomas Asante does what Josh Madger didn't do for Albion the night before, puts the ball in from a yard or two out. And after that, the game changes. To that point, I didn't think we were doing that badly. I think we've been dealt a blow, clearly, in the warm-up. Marvin Duksch pulls out of the game at the last minute. You'd imagine that Davies had been working, and his coaches had been working on a game plan that involved Duksch all week. All of a sudden, you're throwing in Lyndon Dykes, not as the impact substitute, but now as leading the line for the match. And I thought, first 5-10 minutes as the balls were coming in, they were hitting his head. He was getting the knockdowns. He was in the game. He was getting a lot of touches fairly early on. Then we had other things. I mean, we had what I like about Damari Gray is he runs at defenders that in the modern game, as it were, and we are a team that plays in this way. There are a lot of a lot more short passes than there are dribbles. But we've got Brightside Samuel, one of the best dribblers in the division. Although ominously, and I've checked back the Sky broadcast, Sky said before hadn't had a goal contribution. He's got a goal contribution now, hasn't he? Damari Gray running at people, Lewis Kumas running at people. But I mean, the only quibble I think I had with the team sheet was Patrick Roberts. He must be feeling a bit knocked. The fact that Cochrane was back on the bench, that was promising. I thought we'd lost our left back. I thought the injury he had against Swansea didn't look great, but there he is back on the bench. Although, as it turned out, he's got a residual wound from last week. Still, 1-0 down on 16 minutes, and what are we going to do? And I started thinking at this point that Ipswich, in two different ways, has changed the expectation for Birmingham City this season. The most obvious way was the opening game of the season, where we watched a Birmingham City who we have not seen for a little while now dominate a game against a team that was in the Premier League the season before. Ipswich escaped, as talked about a lot, with a generous last-minute penalty and felt relieved to have done so. That game raised the expectations for me and for many fans of how we are going to compete in the Championship. The other Ipswich that raises the expectations is the one that went from winning League One to getting promoted from the Championship. And I think a lot of Blues fans, and I think at the top of the club as well, people have seen that and thought, well, if they can do it, why can't we do it? And there's evidently a couple of reasons why we can't do it. That let's just call it the reality check of September has been, I'm loath to say useful because the results haven't been great, and I'd far rather we'd won everything, we're still all pie in the sky. But it has to be turned into something useful that I think I and quite a few fans see us as a team, 8th, 10th in the league, with the possibility of putting a run together. That feels like a natural place for this team. I look at the squad and think this is a squad that should have a positive goal difference. I don't think it'll be plus 40 or anything like that, but it should have a positive goal difference. And it's a series of tempered expectations. And I was thinking about this somewhat 25 minutes into the Coventry game, where I was looking at it thinking, less are we going to get an equaliser any minute, and more, I hope we don't concede a second goal. As it turned out, I completely underestimated where this was going. I wrote myself a great big long list of notes here. One of which actually was on there's been quite a lot of talk over the last few days about how football is bringing old tactics back. That these long balls in and targeted long balls, not always a straight bash up the pitch, but also the shirt pulling for me. And there was a little video clip that went on the Blues TV, I went on the Blues social media channels last year, behind the scenes with Ethan Laird. And it's really good fun. But Ethan Laird talks, and this is the bit that stuck with me, he goes to see the kit man and talks about how he likes to have his kit really tight to his skin because he doesn't want people pulling his shirt. I would suggest quite a few of our players might go and have a word with the kit man. There were shirts coming off left, right and centre. I think it was a tasty physical local derby away at Coventry, and I would suggest, even after we'd conceded the goal, there's one moment where, one of our players had just been pulled back in the box, and it would have been a really, really soft pit. Nobody appealed for it. I'm not sitting here saying it should be that. But the shirt pulling looked really quite blatant throughout the game. I think we were starting getting into it towards the end of it. Also, I wrote down off the first half as well. Every game now, we seem to do a foul throw, and it's avoidable, isn't it? It's avoidable. It's not tricky. Look, I'm not a professional footballer, you'll be surprised to hear. I never will be. But it's a throw-in. I mean, you see it on parks, pitches throughout the country every weekend. It feels like every game there's a foul throw at the moment. Why? Why are we doing that? Why is the standard just like a tiny bit off there? I liked in this game, it's a bit of a random list, but, you know, I'm going to come to the moany bit soon enough. I liked in this game that Paik was using the ball a little differently. I think overall I came to the end of the game and I thought the only players who came anywhere near to a 7 out of 10 were Clara and Paik. And he was looking to get the ball forward faster. And, you know, that was positive. Even after Coventry went 1-0 up, when we started coming at them, which wasn't very often, it was just the case. Their defenders were just on us. They were closing us down really fast. I've got to say, it was, it hurts, but it was really impressive to watch. They were fighting like man. And there was a game we played during one of our stays in the Premier League. We played a game up, I think it was home to Liverpool, and we beat them. I think we beat them 2-1. Was it the one with the Stephen Clements free? I might have been that. And there was an interview afterwards where one of the Liverpool players or the Liverpool manager said they wanted it more than us, which caused some pushback amongst Liverpool fans. It's like, why would Birmingham City want to win more than Liverpool with the standards that Liverpool are supposed to set? Undeniably, to my eyes, Coventry wanted it 5% more. Even when the game was like really tight, they were just at it faster. I mean, it's not joyful to say that Frank Lampard outthought Chris Davies a little bit, because I think the cards were, I don't think it's fair either, because I think the cards were slightly tainted by the injury in the warm-up and then the bit that we're going to come to. But Coventry were just, they were snapping at us. Every time the ball seemed to get into a difficult position, they just had someone just desperately throwing their body at the ball. Do you remember how Johnson and Dan used to do it in the Premier League? There was just an element of that about it. And the places where we were getting just something, were, I thought, Lewis Koumas just looked, he was causing them problems for the few bits that he was in the game. Crosses, terrible. I mean, it's worth noting as well. It's quite hard to make this an upbeat chat, because, you know, set pieces. I mean, it's not just throw-ins, is it? Set pieces. Let's call back another game. Home to Newcastle in the Cup last year. There's this set piece. The corner is played long, headed back across. Ethan Laird turns it back in. You look at it, you just say, by the time you celebrate it, they've worked like mad on that, and it worked. What's happened there? I do wonder. And it's always a danger, isn't it, to look back at a player who's played really well over the last season or two. I do wonder if we're missing the outright positivity of the injured Keshi Anderson, of the players we've got in the treatment room at the moment. I know Villansson's there, but I think Keshi Anderson has... he just ignites something. He when he's on the pitch, I just think he wants a goal. I'm not suggesting the others don't, but he gets into a position where he might actually get one. Conversely, you look at how Jay Stansfield has come off the pitch like the last 3-4 games, having worked his socks off, but has he looked like scoring a goal? He had a shot against Swansea, certainly. But has he been in a position, our inverted commas star striker, if you will, our most expensive player, where he's putting the ball away or in a position to do so? And we've barely had him in those positions. Kyogo as well. Kyogo's had more chances and he's very good at getting into the right position. But I think we've just got to have a look at how we're using some of these, because having Lyndon Dykes up front against a physical team, not as physical I'd suggest as, like, say, Stoke, but having Lyndon Dykes up front, after a while it just wasn't working. But we didn't, because the hand was forced a little bit, have an awful lot to push back against. Still, even before we get to, let's just say, the moment of madness, Coventry were just peppering us with shots. If you go to their first goal, the determination that somehow they're just going to get a shot on goal, ball creeps through a whole bunch of players, Allsop sees it late, what's he supposed to do? Emil Heskey used to have shots that just like seemed to fumble under a keeper or something like that, because I'm not suggesting we get Emil Heskey back, to be clear, but he'd have a shot. And we're back. It feels like I'm back 2 episodes. That Swansea, we peppered Swansea. Coventry, the first 40 minutes or so, not a shot on target. I mean, not a shot on target in the whole game in the end, but still. And you know what? They were upside. There were positives I was seeing. Bright Asai Samuel, I just think he's improving more and more, and I think he offers us something. I don't think there's an end ball yet. Clearly there's not. Ethan Laird's got a better end ball. Cochrane has. Asai Samuel, though, if he, it's a bunch of ifs. If he comes good, I mean, if Kyogo comes good, and if they reach what 3/4 of their capability, I think, in fairness, I think Asai Samuel, he's actually doing really well. Then, you know, this season could yet take off. However, lots of silly bookings. I don't actually have an argument with the referee on the whole. I know Chris Davies has talked about consistency here, but it was quite hard to argue with most of the bookings that came. And then Robinson, Robinson, you're on a yellow card. Ethan Laird is covering, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt and suggest he wasn't entirely sure Ethan Laird was covering. You've still got the, is it worth it? Is it worth it moment? They would have got the ball on the halfway line, still have had to get to goal. He didn't put a lot of contact on the Coventry striker, but if I was the Coventry striker, I'm going down. No, I mean, the striker, to be fair, had worked out he wasn't going to get his one-on-one. He clocked where Laird was. He's going down. Robinson's off. Then off comes Kumas at the same time. And you're looking at it and you're just like, this is going to be a really, really long afternoon. I mean, interesting that Robinson just walks past Chris Davies and Chris Davies just has the death stare going forward. I still don't think there was a lot of contact, but any referee's going to give that. I'd give that. If that happened against us, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, get him off, and no question, no grumble at all with the actual decision. On comes Cashin then. It's just like, well, there's an opportunity. And I was kind of thinking, when did we last have 10 men? And I think, and I've not double checked it, it was the home game at Wrexham when Bielik got sent off at the end. But the second half, I mean, I thought, clearly, first of all, the fact that Cashin's come off, well, Phil Nyman's just not in particular favour at the moment. The second half, I just thought, well, we're going into it, even when we had 11 players on the park, we hadn't had a good shot, or let's go a bit further, a shot. I just had this sinking feeling that if you go back to last season, we were going to be the tepid League One side as another team swamped us. And I mean, it's really pretty much how it played out. Coventry had the lion's share of the possession. We were chasing shadows. I mean, one of the hallmarks of this Birmingham team since Chris Davies and his backroom staff came in, they're just super fit. They keep going to the 98th, 99th. It's no coincidence we get so many late goals. After 80 minutes, we got to chasing shadows, and it just, I mean, it just, I don't know. Clearly, it wasn't working, but it was just disappointing to watch, wasn't it? That, understandably, Coventry pumped up, 30,000 in the stadium, local derby, winning, clearly going to get the 3 points. But where was the drive to get a consolation? Where was something? Where was the player who just like, I'm really going to try and at least try and make a moment in this game? And in fairness, Coventry nullified that. So I'm being a bit harsh with the criticism of the Blues players on that point, I think, because if they're not letting you have the ball, there's not much you can do. But still, we weren't particularly careful with the ball, and you had players who just weren't having a lot of impact on the game. I don't think Iwata had a lot of impact on the game again, and I'm not down on him because I think he's a crucial player for us. But it was a whole bunch of. I'm not used to seeing some of those players put in a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, and it's really curious that here we are, having now lost in the league 3 out of 4 games, and you come away from them thinking, well, we've not even had a proper shot to try and get a point. There's not been a moment in those 3 games that we've lost, but perhaps the Leicester one, perhaps I'm being a tiny bit unfair, where we've run through walls to try and get something out of it. You know, we've been managed by teams who are, at the moment, clearly better than us. I mean, let's be clear about it, who worked out how to play against us. Against Swansea, we had a strategy that was working. Against the first 15 minutes against Coventry, we had something that was working. And then, I mean, it's the first time under Chris Davies, really. It's been the house of cards that just fallen down. And the key moment, outside of the sending off itself, was the second goal. And so the second goal owed an awful lot to Eccles for Coventry. I'm not surprised they gave him a huge round of applause as he went off the pitch. He rescued a ball, got it across, and bright as Samuel finally has the goal contribution. To the naked eye, it had gone over the line. I didn't have much doubt it had. And, I mean, Allsop trying to claw the ball back, comes off for Samuel. 2-0 down, 49 minutes, down to 10 men. It's just not going to happen, is it? I mean, just you looked at the players on the pitch, you looked at what we were up against. Yeah, I mean, it's not even a case of like we had a weak bench. I mean, we had a weakened bench, but there was just no sign at all that anything was going to happen. And I'm going back. I can't help but go back only like a month and a bit to that game at home to Sheffield United, that game at home to Ipswich, even the way we ground Oxford out a little bit, of all that optimism, all that, you know, we can play this football in this league and really compete. Now, reality check. My reality checks the last couple of episodes have been, you know, it's not panic stations. Realistically, we were never going to, like, I mean, it was a forlorn hope that we would trounce the Championship with 100 points and all of that. It always struck me as a massive long shot. At this point in the season, the other reality check is, and it is worth noting to keep this in perspective, we have lost 3 games to the teams in 2nd, 3rd and 5th. One was in the Premier League last year. One was in the playoffs last year. Those are the games we've lost. So I can keep that in perspective to a degree. We sit in 11 points, 2 points off the playoffs after 7 games, negative goal difference, which is a problem. But in terms of, do you hit panic stage? I mean, I went on the message boards and it's just like, is Chris Davies the man? I mean, come on. We're nowhere near that point. For stuff like that even to be posted is odd, I think. Utterly fine to question what has been Chris Davies' weakest few weeks as Blues manager. Utterly fine. But, I mean, come on. Let's not do that. You know, we've had so many years of turning over the manager and knee-jerk and this whole culture in football, which is unavoidable, of, you know, you're 4 results away from the sack and stuff like that. The consistency here is crucial, I think, and really helps us. And I mean, I have confidence in him. He's not daft. He was showed at the start of this game. He was adapting his style a little bit. But this was not a good day. And I mean, coming out with, I don't know what he's supposed to say afterwards, actually. It's just like, fair dues, if you're going to talk about the red card. But perhaps there's a little bit of Wengering there, of protecting your players, because realistically, most fans walking out the stadium, if they'd given a post-match interview, would be nowhere near as polite. So, you know, all of that. However, there is... So, I've just tried to just put some feet on the ground of where we are and why we're not absolutely like in the dollop. But I don't think it's unreasonable, even me as a glass half full person, to just raise a tiny little alarm bell at what's not been a very good September, that we're in danger of having that squad of players that looks better on paper than on a football pitch at the moment. I still think if you ask 23 clubs, would you prefer our squad to theirs? I think 6 or 7 would turn it down, but I think most of them would sort of go for it. I might be wrong. I might be a bit of, I don't know. I keep reading how we're all arrogant and stuff like that. Might be that. I don't know. I think we've got a good squad. I think we've got good players, and I think we've got a good mentality. I also think we now have a massive challenge, because this game is the first of 3 games in days, really. Home to Sheffield Wednesday coming up. That all of a sudden starts to look a lot more interesting, like it wasn't already. And then just around the corner on Friday is Wrexham, and then a nice big international break. And the start of this bunch of 3 matches, what were you hoping for? 6 points? That would have been good. I think now we're going to do well to come out with 4. I think that would be an achievement, but also don't think it would be a disaster. If we're still having similar conversations in February, I think the tone of these chats would be a lot different, and I think the mood of the fan base would be a lot different as well. I think a bit of patience in September, October is the least this team and this club and these owners deserve after the season we've had like before. The other elephant in the room, though, is an ownership who are open about the fact that the standards and expectations are really high. That I mean, there is talk that the minimum expectation this season is playoffs. And what we've seen on the pitch in September ain't playoffs. No, there's plenty of time to fix it. There's personnel. There's all sorts of changes that can be made. And also, we've got a run of fixtures that aren't away at teams in the top 5 coming up. Still, I would imagine there's a meeting, just like a polite meeting. In the documentary, how Tom Brady would send an email to Chris Davies every now and then. I think Tom might have sent another email or 2 on top of his usual emails. I wonder too, I've not said this before as well, if one of the emails might be to do with Ryan Allsop, who has been a really good keeper for us and is a really good keeper and a good outfield player, really. I don't think it's worked quite as well this season as last, but still, he is a threat. He's a good defender. He's a great distributor of the ball. I think this was his worst game in a Birmingham shirt. I don't think it's as bad a game as, let's just say, a different keeper had for us last season. But it's an interesting audit, really, of how high the standard is of what we're driving for, and how ruthless Chris Davies is, as we've seen him be before, in the pursuit of a higher position. We have another really good keeper signed on loan, who we've seen beaten by a shot from the halfway line. We've not really seen him properly tested, though, I don't think. And I wonder, because I wonder if James Reid might be in the running for Sheffield Wednesday, maybe. Because for the first time, I mean, if you go to the first goal, Allsop, I mean, you want him really to push it further away, but then also the fact that he got anything on it when it came through a crowd is something. The second goal, I mean, he drags his hand on it, tries to pull it back behind the line. You might be being a bit tough in suggesting that the second one was him. The third one, I don't know, I've watched it a few times. The third one was just horrible, wasn't it? And Cashin does himself no favours with it. A ball over the top, misjudged by the defender. It just looked like a half-hearted stop. No, that it was just, I don't know. I'm not a professional goalkeeper, but the ball goes to him, and it just looks like it's almost prodded away, really. And whereas the first one, it might be a bit tight, so you could get it out further. The third one, it was a head drop goal. No, not just because he didn't get her head on the ball, but it was just a head drop goal, and I don't think anyone involved with it comes out of it well at all. And also, I can't remember the last time we shipped a really crap goal like that. Where I mean, we've shipped goals, and I've not enjoyed watching watching a ship go. I mean, maybe led the kind of slight mishap against Leicester that let Leicester in at the start. Maybe that. I don't know. But I do wonder now, going back to the point I made before about the goal difference and how our goal difference is negative. And we're not scoring goals, but now we seem to be shipping them as well. What do you do with the defence? Is Beadle part of that? Who are we now going to put as the centre-back partnership for Sheffield Wednesday? Because, I mean, Cashin didn't exactly mark his card particularly well. Robinson isn't available. I wonder if Nyman and Clara are going to partner again and try that. Then you've got Laird, who's hobbled off. Precautionary, certainly, but suddenly we're again looking quite light on fullbacks. So, I mean, there's options are fairly limited there, aren't they? And then who'd you put in goal? I can't imagine Paik and Iwata is going to be messed with an awful lot. Perhaps Leonard might get a game. I don't know. I think Paik is, the one that you don't drop. I still know there's some fans who just don't see it in him. I'm completely the opposite. I just think he's the metronome of the team, and comfortably of all the people in our team who you could roll a football to for 60 minutes and get them to look after it, was people try to get. Paik is the one I'd trust to just like get to 60 minutes and still have the ball, or at very least pretty much like collapse trying to hold on to it. The possession stats at the end of the game were just 63% Coventry. When was the last time that we conceded more than 60% possession? We had 36.8% possession. We had 5 shots, none on target. Expected goals is just crap, isn't it? It just doesn't count. It's just made up stuff. I think to the naked eye, most of us could see Coventry were going to score more goals than us, should have scored more goals than us, did score more goals than us. And for the last 20, 25 minutes, I mean, just getting out of our own half would have been worthy of a bit of a celebration. It was that kind of game, and it was not a lot of fun to watch for a Blues fan, and it's a long time since I felt like that. And so I keep it in perspective because it is a long time since I felt like that. It used to be every week we felt like this. This time, hopefully a 3-0 battering in a local derby is the outlier, again against the context of Leicester and Stoke, but this one felt a lot worse to me. I mean, we put Kyogo on, didn't we, towards the end? And with the best will in the world, you could have put Ruud van Nistelrooy in his prime at centre forward for the last 20 minutes. Wouldn't have made the slightest bit of difference. We're not even putting a cross in. And I did reflect, this must have been how crap League One teams felt last season playing against us. Every goal I looked at that we shipped wasn't great, to varying degrees. There were players whose standards just looked like they'd dropped. We looked really resigned as well. And by contrast, I mean, Coventry, was it Van Evik, in the 89th minute, didn't get a decision about Cochrane and against Cochrane, and he's going absolutely bananas, and he's still really caring about it in the 89th minute. When they're 3-0 up, they've comfortably got the points. And, in a boxing match, we've not even tickled their armpits, yet alone put a punch on their face. And he was still really angry that he didn't get a referee decision. And it's not even that we gave up. We just looked like what we were. Absolutely toothless. Nothing. We would still be playing now. We wouldn't have had a goal. We might have had a shot by about 9 o'clock at night or something like that. It was not a good day at all. There's no way of spinning it. Not a good day at all. I mean, now what? Now what? Where are our expectations now? I'm still 8th to 10th. I still think that's a fair expectation for this squad of players. Another transfer window coming up in January. I don't even think that's... I mean, it's in the back pocket, isn't it? I think we've got enough on the roster to do more than what we've been doing. And I also think we've got this run of games coming up now that will be a very, very thorough audit for where Birmingham City sit. So we look at the fixture list. I mean, we look at the injury list as well, which it's less that it's long, it's more who it's hitting. Please let Marvin Dukes, for instance, be ready for Sheffield Wednesday or Wrexham, because for him to have a setback, that wouldn't be great news. Please let Laird be okay. Let's get Anderson Williamson out for a while. But here's what we've got. We are home to Sheffield Wednesday. We are away at Wrexham. We are home to Hull. Away at Preston, tricky. We're away at Bristol City. Home to Portsmouth. And that takes us to the start of November. We have to be, if we're that, argument say, 8th place team, taking, what? Let's have a look at that. 3 wins out of that? I mean, there are 3 wins in it, but then anyone who scouted our last few performances might look at that and think, well, we're a scalp to be taken. I don't think at the end of it saying referee consistency is what we're after is the solution. I respect the fact that Chris Davies has come out and he hasn't thrown players under the bus. I've tried not to throw players under the bus. And you know, he's got a busy day or two to come up with something just wildly different. Really, just something for us as fans to get. In fact, no, it doesn't have to be wildly different, does it? It has to be something we can get behind. And we've seen it. We've seen it at home to Swansea. We've seen it at home to Ipswich. We've seen it at home to Sheffield United. We might not have all of that, those players, the personnel might vary a little bit through injury and stuff like that, but the attitude and the drive and the determination to wring anything out that we can possibly get that wasn't there in the last 10-20 minutes against Coventry, I just need that back. Personally, I just need that back. I am so far away from pressing panic buttons, and I do. My frame of reference really is our last season in the Championship, and at this point, this is roughly where we were ticking before the Eustace decision. Yeah. Also, people thinking of getting rid of Chris Davies, and it's a tiny minority, but look at the history books of us removing a manager when we're in like the top half of the table. How's that gone? And, you know, just temper it down a little bit. But also, I don't think it is unreasonable for us as fans to ask for more than we got at Coventry. It just felt a little bit more close to Old Blues than I'd like to see. And I sat through, I mean, we all sat through an era of Old Blues that wasn't an awful lot of fun. This is still much better, but if we were being tested after Leicester, if we were being tested after Stoke, bloody hell are we being tested now. Here comes Sheffield Wednesday. Fingers crossed.